Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Um, I'm going to go run into or jump into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream. And I'm going to go run into or jump into. We got it, and I'm going to put my quick posts up. So be fast. And I got a typo. Great. And I'm going to put my email address up and then we'll get going. Gives people a chance to come in. What's the matter, Chiefy? What's the matter, buddy? You smell food, huh? Okay. We're done. Now I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. All right. Before we get started, one of our subscribers wrote a song and actually produced the song about Elijah. And this person used the teachings that I spew forth and incorporated that into the song. So it's fantastically correct. I mean, he talks about Elijah with Apostle John. He talks about Yeshua not for the apostate churches with the false doctrine. I mean, this guy has it full of doctrine, you know. And he sent it to me to see if I had any commentaries, like corrections. I had two very small corrections. And, you know, and I sent them over to him, and I asked him for permission to post the song on YouTube. He may not want to because maybe he wants to fix it. But in any event, if any of you want the song, send me an email and I won't send it to you until he gives me permission, but that'll probably be later today. Okay. It's really good. I mean, it's like a Bible study and a song put together. You know, it's got music, vocal, everything, right? You can understand the words. You know, the other one, the big one is These Are the Days of Elijah. You know, it talks about Moses with him. Moses, how could it be Moses? Is selected unto man to die only once. Moses died. The two witnesses died. That would mean Moses dies a second time. That would break scripture. Can't be Moses. And it's all full of false doctrine. You know, Elijah's coming on the clouds. Where does it say that? He leaves on the cloud after he dies and rises from the dead. He doesn't come on the clouds. Him and Apostle Jonah here in Israel, walking on the earth, not coming down on clouds. Okay? So, this is a good one, you know. But this would be probably the only piece of so-called biblical music that I would trust. The stuff that the world listens to called Christian music is generally no good. Why? Well, they're not going to let a musician play in the church and take offerings or sell his music if he's not walking with the enemy. These are not God's churches. Okay? They're not letting God's people come in there and do this and collect money. There are no exceptions to this. Now, every now and then you hear of a church and people in the congregation of the church write a song and want to sing it to the church, and what are they going to do? They let them do it. But these people are under the covering of the dark church, the evil church. They're not, you know, going to have good doctrine 99.9% of the time anyway. And they're not getting any money from it. Follow the money trail. You notice how Trump reveres and respects people that have a lot of money? And that's because they have a lot of favor with the unclean spirits. Not that they're good people that follow the Bible, the opposite. So, I'm looking forward to this. And I myself don't know what happens if I post it on YouTube. I'm not sure. So I might want to post it on Telegram. Or maybe I'll just email it. I don't know what I'm going to do. But YouTube could get skitsy about any kind of music you post. If the song's already up on YouTube, I might get a copyright strike. And then I got to disentangle it, and it's going to be annoying. And so I'll figure out a way to distribute it if the person that did the song gives me permission. It's nice. When you listen to churchianity music, it says either Jesus or the Lord or God. Well, they refer to, you know, Satan as the Lord and the God, you know. So that doesn't do me any good. Okay. Why is Trump not, and Netanyahu not going to attack Iran in the near future? Well, First of all, Trump never said he would. Okay? And that's important. Second of all, what Trump is focused on attacking is the nuclear sites in Iran. Those things go down like 300 feet, I believe. It's a nightmare to blow them up. He'd probably have to use those 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, which means they're probably going to have to come on a B-52 or something that has precious little stealth capability, or really none. So he has to make sure before he does that any and all of Iranian air defense systems are completely defunct. So it would probably require a strike the same day or 2 or 3 or 4 days before against any and all of their defensive measures, radars, anti-aircraft missiles, and so forth. Not a simple thing to do, because there's 5 or 6 nuclear sites spread around, and, but rather than rely on the technical features of this, let's look at Trump's behavior. He wanted the Middle East shut down. He didn't want wars. Why? Well, he didn't want people belly aching to him. Shut down the Middle East. These terrorists are crazy, and all this stuff. Trump doesn't want war now. He knows his administration is ill-prepared for at least 3 months. Okay? Now, I said Trump doesn't want wars. The enemies of America probably want wars sooner than later, so don't get me wrong here. We're talking about Trump and or Israel initiating a war. Okay? So, Trump wants Greenland, and that's for war. There's no other reasonable reason he'd want Greenland. It's very advantageous, putting aircraft, radar, Navy ships, missiles, probably at least 2,000 miles closer to Russia. Tremendous advantages. And he's going to move on that quickly. But it's not going to be that fast. The Greenland people are probably going to want to vote on it, right? I mean, that's fair. Then the United States Congress is going to have to vote on something pertaining to that, right? Then they sign it. Then Trump has to turn the military loose over there to start building things. They need a few airstrips, 2 or 3 or 4 probably. They're going to want at least 2. They're going to want at least 2 or 3 new additional Navy bases. They're going to want to put a lot of missiles in there. They're going to want to put a lot of air defenses in there. Patriots, stuff like that. And what I call it, the Thor or the Thar or the other one, the SAD. Then he's going to want to build piers for Navy ships. That's going to mean Navy bases with fuel, food, weapons, replenishment, parts, workers that can do these things, heavy equipment to move the stuff. places for them to sleep and live. But these things need to be fortified. That's going to take a considerable amount of time. I think if they were on an emergency basis, it would be several months after the deal is signed. At the same time, Trump wants to deal with Canada. Canada is poorly defended. Their military is nothing much to speak of. So, Trump would probably be satisfied with Canada allowing America to put a number of military bases in Canada, Navy bases, and probably the west to the east, the north maybe, probably. Missile defense systems, air defense systems, radars, missile launches, airfields. That's probably how it'll end. I don't think we'll have a lot of trouble. Trudeau will be out of office soon. I don't know who's going to come in. That's going to take months. And what if he's on full, pushing the pedal to the metal? And then Mexico, which is basically going to mean fortifying the border. I mean, nobody is crazy enough in America to decide to make Mexico a state. That would be the disaster of disasters. It would be legalizing, legitimatizing hundreds of thousands of cartel members. Drugs would be all over America. Kidnappings, home invasions, robberies, rapes, gang wars between different gangs in America and the Mexican gangs territory. He ain't gonna do that. He stopped talking about that. Okay? And at the same time, his people need to seek in their new jobs, get their underlings in their jobs. And then they got to start taking control over the military and Homeland Security and the FBI and Justice Department and NSA and CIA. All of this. It's months. If he is in a race, it's months. Okay? So Trump is, by his actions, not looking for any kind of a war right now. He's looking to play the sanctions game again, heavily. He's looking to bust bricks out with 100% sanctions. He's going to probably start building the military up and putting in enlistment bonuses that are substantial. What's substantial? $10,000, $20,000, something like that. He's not going to start a draft. I don't think that's viable for America, and I think they know that, because they would have to draft women, because women are equal now to men. So you can't just go around and draft the men without drafting the women. That destroys equality. That's like saying men could vote and women can't vote. That's ridiculous. So he's not going to do that. He's going to open it up to enlistments. And just encourage them with, higher pay, better benefits, and enlistment bonuses, and re-upping bonuses when they renew their enlistment. When it expires, they're going to get more and more bonuses. Pilots get 6 digits. Pilots can leave the military. They sign up for so many years. They got to do a reasonably long first sign up, because they got to go through all the different levels of flight school. The military spends a small fortune on them. And then they get a few years out. I don't know what they enlist for, 4 or 5 years, I guess. And then they can go to the private sector because they got all their licenses. You know, they get out, they got multi-engine jet ratings. I mean, they got ratings for anything and everything. On the way up, they get propeller ratings, and they get, you know, instrument ratings. They get everything. So they could join the private sector, not only America, around the world, and make a nice living. Now, pilots usually start at rather low wages. People don't understand this. In America, they work for puddle jumping airlines that do short runs, sometimes with propellers, sometimes with small jets, small aircraft. And they start them about $90,000 a year, which is not starvation. But, you know, a more, well, you know, the way it works is the more hours they accrue, the better they are, okay? The big airlines, you know, United, American, Delta, they paid pretty good. But to survive, they need these little airlines that sometimes they own or lend their name to or affiliate with that do short hops, you know, 1, 2, 3, 400 miles. And they bring people from little cities into the big hubs where they get on the big Delta and American airline flights, and that's where they make their big money because they're not cheap and they put a lot of people on these planes and they do pretty good. But they got to be able to transport the people from the smaller cities, you know, cities of 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 to the big cities like Atlanta, Miami, right? And in the big cities, they put them on the big runs and they make big money on that stuff, okay? So they need these little airlines, but they don't like running them because they don't make much money. So the little airlines that doing the short hops with the small planes need to pay less. They got to watch themselves because their budgets are tight. They're not going to do it and, you know, put themselves out of business every year. So they got to make a profit, but they work tight. So they don't pay the pilots very much. So those pilots are the newer, inexperienced pilots. Think about that when you go on these flights. So when you get into the big airlines, so the pilot gets out of the military, and, you know, it's not likely that Delta and American are going to just hire him and bring him in at a high level. Then they might. So let's say they do bring him in because he's been in the military 6, 8 years and he's got so many hours. So let's say they do bring him in. They got to give him some training to break him off of military flying style to civilian aircraft, but they adapt well to that. And, you know, a lot of these military pilots think they could keep the plane flying if one wing is shot off. You know, they can't have that kind of psychology. You know, the plane's got a problem, you land. You know, they got to change their mentality. You're not flying over enemy territory, and if you land, you're going to get tortured and put in jail. You know, you land and you get repaired, you know. So, these guys are good. They've gone across oceans all the time, the military, you know, so they put them in, and they might start them at, you know, 150 or 180 or even more. And as they build up more and more hours in the airline, they can get promoted. And then comes, what run do they get? You know, the worst thing for the pilot is he has a flight and maybe he works 8 or 9 hours and he flies from point A to point B. He's got to get there early. and it takes him a little bit more time when the plane lands to get off. So he does 8 or 9 hours of paid time. That's what they pay him on the flight hours, right? It's a high rate of pay. And then he has a layover for a day, and then he takes the plane back where he came from or something, right? So he's away, he does a job, and then he's away from home for a day. Now they give him a per diem, they pay the hotel, they give him money for meals, and he doesn't have to eat Pizza Hut and McDonald's. They give him a reasonable amount of money to eat good. And he has to watch his alcohol consumption because there's a 24-hour, limit. In other words, he has to stop drinking like more than 24 hours before the flight, I believe. So, what does he do the day he's laid over? Well, some of them, they got the same route. They get themselves a little apartment. Sometimes a few of them will share a 2-bedroom apartment, and they just use it as a crash pad where they got that 1-day layover. What are they going to do? They sleep, they get on the internet, they go out to eat, maybe they go shopping, take walks, they might go to a gym, they might watch the ball games, maybe the place has a pool, they go sit out by the pool, So then they can keep the per diem. They can get a little bit extra money that way, so they don't have to pay for a hotel. Usually they put them in a nice hotel like a Radisson or a Hilton or something like that. They don't put them in budget hotels. They give them a nice hotel. The stewardesses get usually the same hotel. And they have security people that, I knew a guy once that did this. I met him, I didn't really know him. And he would go around and look at the security features of the hotel to see if it was acceptable to put the stewardesses and the pilots in there, how many blinded areas there were, what kind of locks were on the door, what kind of police were there. Crime probably goes and pulls crime reports for that hotel, see what's been happening there. They're very worried about stewardesses getting raped. She's in a hotel, somebody could grab her in the hall, put her in her own room, gag her, tie her up, and have a long session of sexual torture and stuff with her, and So they're very worried about that. And pilots, not so much. A lot of these guys are from the military, they can take care of themselves, they're not easy marks, Then he gets in the military. He gets in, he accrues hours and he gets promoted, and he could be a first officer, and he's not the pilot, and the guy makes less money than the pilot, but if he has so many hours to be at the top of the pack as a first officer, he could pick his flights. So he doesn't fly one day, have a layover, and then fly the next day. He gets runs where he flies and comes back and he sleeps in his own house at night. So he does a run, maybe 1,800 mile run or more, and he's there and he hangs around for a few hours, and then he takes the plane back where it came from. And then he goes home. Then the next day he's off, but he's in his own house. So they don't want to become a pilot, because if they become a pilot, now they're at the bottom end of the list. They're the lower man down, and they can't pick their flights, so they get the lousy flights. It's weird what they do. They got a union too. So when they're first officer and they're high up on the list, maybe there's only 6 or 8 guys ahead of them that got more hours. They can pick extra hours, they can make more money than a pilot, it's a weird thing. So it's not such a great life for a military pilot who's an officer to quit and go into the private sector, and they start giving these guys like $150,000 re-enlistment bonuses, and they stay in the military because they get promoted. And the guy's not first or second lieutenant, and he's a captain, then he's a major, then he's a colonel, then he's a full bird colonel. So, his life gets better, his pay goes up, his reenlistments get, it's a weird thing. Anyway, I digress. So, pilots are not, they make a high blue collar wage. They're really paid by the hour. And they make a high blue collar wage, and that's it. And for them, it's not a very hard job. Um, to say the planes fly themselves is probably a half truth. To a great extent, the planes fly themselves, but they really need the pilot to take off and land, and to be there if there's an emergency and there's failures. I think a lot of them feel after the first 3 or 4 years that it's a boring job. You know, they get benefits like they can get free flights on airlines, and if you're a pilot or a first officer, you're probably going to get first class or business class seat for free, and stuff like that. So anyway, Trump is not looking to start a war today or tomorrow. The other big, and this is a big problem Trump has, is the illegal immigrants in America, some of which filed for asylum, some didn't, whatever. And 60-70% of them are military-age males, also known as sleeper agents. And Trump knows, although he's not talking about it on TV, he knows what a dangerous problem this is, and he's immediately starting tomorrow, Tuesday, going to start deporting these people. Of course, he says, well, I'm going to start in Chicago, and yeah, okay, he's going to get a lot of them, but the serious sleeper agents aren't going to sit around waiting to get stopped in the street and deported. They're going to go hide. They're going to go deeper. He's not going to get those people very easily. The law enforcement just picked up some guys carrying thousands of rounds of 50 caliber ammo and AK-47 ammo, and they got ATF investigating what's going on. They're illegal aliens. So I think they are well aware of the problem. Okay. So Trump needs to clean that out substantially before he starts going to war. The sleeper agents, as a result of him attacking countries, would get unleashed. Now, would Israel attack Iran? Well, Iran's not threatening to attack Israel anymore, if you've noticed. And I don't think they have built their radar up to guide missiles to Israel yet, so they can't do it. So they're probably pretty content. Trump's got a bone to pick with them on the nuclear thing, not following the atomic energy authorities, the international authorities, and producing more than they're supposed to, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to start negotiating, in other words, threatening them. And they're going to be not freaked out, but they're going to be concerned about his threats because Trump's a wild card, and I don't see China so quick to come rescue them. And I don't think Russia can. Trump's people said the war in Ukraine is probably going to take 6 months to stop. Well, why? Biden dumped a massive amount of weapons into Ukraine. More is still coming, I'm sure. Right? And people say if Biden's grants to them of weapons, get all fulfilled, then Trump could, of course, stop it. Ukraine would have enough weapons to go probably well into 2026. So Ukraine doesn't have to come to the bargaining table right away. But when Trump starts pinching the supply of weapons flowing to Ukraine, they're probably going to come to the bargaining table. But what does this do? the Ukraine-Russia war keeps Russia tied up, and Trump doesn't have to worry that much about Russia attacking NATO countries while they're heavily occupied by Ukraine. And last night, Ukraine did another long-range missile strike into Russia that was successful. So Putin's got his hands full. Many of his oil refineries have been destroyed by Ukraine's long-range missiles and drones. You know, attacks on Moscow, St. Petersburg. He's not in great shape, okay? So what it appears Trump wants to do is build up the military and then start dictating to the countries, thou shalt do this, that, and the other thing. And if they don't listen, then come sanctions. And if they really break the sanctions, then would come military action. So what I think we're going to see Trump do is start negotiating and threatening Iran, and that's a slow freight train. And Israel's going to do what Trump wants, so I don't think Israel's going to be attacking anything in Iran. An attack on Iran could likely, and most probably, light the Houthis up, and they'd start attacking shipping again, which Trump needs like a hole in the head the first 6 months. Okay, or at least the first 3 months. He needs that like a hole in the head. So Trump's not going to be that interested in seeing Israel attack Iran. Iraq could do things to Israel if we attacked Iran, but not much. Syria wouldn't do anything. They're not set up yet. Hezbollah could do precious little, and Hamas precious little. But they could all try to light things up again, and then Trump's not looking for that. Okay? I don't know what Trump intends to do with North Korea and China yet. We'll have to watch that. Likely, he'll be giving more and more weapons to South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and maybe the Philippines, and that kind of thing. That's what I see right now. Now, I'm telling you from Trump's point of view, from the point of view of the big enemies of America, which are many Muslim nations, don't like Algeria, Morocco, you know, that are not actively fighting right now. They don't care for America one bit, okay? And there's others, okay? And they know Trump is weak his first 3 to 6 months. They know they got sleeper agents in America, and they're going to be very seriously considering launching the sleeper agents along with attacking America, because if they let Trump build up, he's going to build the military up and round up the sleeper agents, or a good amount of them, and that's going to break their golden window of opportunity here. Israel just attacking the nuclear facilities, number one, it's unlikely to work because Israel by themselves has no capability for these big bunker buster bombs. They basically use 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs in series or sequences and multiples. But I don't think Israel aircraft could carry anything that's going to go down 300 feet. So I'm not so sure Israel's going to do that. Israel could attack the ports and piers and oil refineries and natural gas and oil pipelines of Iran and cripple their, I was listening to, I thought I heard one of the dogs, and cripple their economy. And that again could cause the sleeper agents to rise up again, or not. But I don't think Trump's in the mood for that. He's going to try to make a deal, the art of the deal. He's going to try to make some sort of deal with Iran, and he's going to very quickly realize that they're a bunch of psychopaths and liars, and then he's going to start threatening them and that kind of thing. Sanctions, try to enforce the sanctions. He's going to be slow to attack them. Now, after 6 months, or maybe 9 months, which prophetic time will never allow for, he might do it. Remember, in Jeremiah 49, it says Elam, which is basically in Iran. It's the southwestern part of Iran, so we can assume Iran would be attacked. They're not going to just sever off southwestern Iran and write it off as a loss, okay? It's enemies in the plural. So it's not just one country that attacks them, it's multiple countries. And so I believe they do something that really irritates everybody. Sleeper agents would do it. Okay? So it's not going to be Israel by itself doing it. So that scenario is off, and it's not America by itself. So it's multiple countries, at least 2 anyway. It's probably more, but at least 2. Israel and America would probably be the minimalistic interpretation of that. Or maybe the UK and America minimalist, but I get the idea it'd be more than 2. So we'll watch Iran irritate everybody. Trump will provoke them. So, you know, Trump has to fix his military, have his people get seated in power, do Greenland and Canada military defensive operations, get the Panama Canal, because he's very fearful of that. So, you know, Trump is not interested in having wars before he gets Canada and Greenland and the Panama Canal and fortifies the border with Mexico. And maybe put missile defenses up by the border of Mexico even, I don't know. So Trump wants to get America straightened out militarily before he starts going on any warpaths, okay? And he'd rather do negotiations and sanctions. Sanctions don't cost America any money. Negotiations don't cost any real money. But wars cost billions and billions and billions of dollars. And Trump is mindful of that. But his enemies are going to want to get rid of him quickly. So Trump may wind up bombing Iran, but it's because of provocations. If that makes sense, it should make sense. So don't expect Trump to say, oh, okay, we're going out and, you know, bombing Iran next week. You know, I highly doubt that. Now, when you start a war, you never know what's going to happen, okay? Now, Trump will start deporting aliens tomorrow. He's issuing over 200 executive orders, which we don't know the vast majority of them. We don't know what they're going to be, and that'll be very interesting. So the news is going to be completely saturated with Trump later today. Today be Monday, because he's going to be sworn in some hours. That's going to be a big gala event in the media. We don't know if there'll be any terrorist attacks at the time of his inauguration or shortly thereafter. I don't know. They might like that idea after Trump is sworn in and then launch sleeper agents, because that puts them, it puts them in their strongest position, because Trump is just floundering around, okay? So I don't know what Donald will do here. I'm not sure. But I don't see him going to war. So is he going to try to build up the economy? Of course, that's why he's recruiting like 10 billionaires to work with him. Like, you know, the Microsoft Gates guy, Elon Musk, many others. He's going to look, fixing the economy isn't that hard if you want to do it. And he's going to want to do it. And he wants to change the tax basis, get rid of the IRS. He wants to have carry concealed weapons permits, reciprocity in all 50 states, which is going to cause an uproar. And I think we're going to first, in the next few days, see things he wants to do that we were not expecting, or maybe we were, and we'll start seeing that come out later. Today, the news is going to be infatuated with his 200 executive orders. I know I will. I'd be very interested. Then Tuesday, it's Deport the Immigrants Day. He'll be in the news. Probably Wednesday and Thursday, he'll be all over the news. So everything's going to be Trump, 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 Trump. And don't be too optimistic about Trump. I think this is going to drop on him pretty quickly because of the massive vulnerability the country has now and the massive fear they have over Trump and what he's going to do. They're not used to anything like this. Hang on a second. Somebody asked me for a prayer. Yeah, you're not supposed to make merchandise out of God's people. Well, I have the name John. Okay, so let's pray for John for healing from an ulcer. Pray for John to be healed from an ulcer. All right? Send them an email and tell them the prayer went out. Okay, so pray for John to be healed of an ulcer. I thought that was the letter from the guy with the song, but I imagine he's slipping or something. But we'll get an answer pretty quick. Okay, hostages, as you probably know, came back. 3 women. 1 woman lost 2 fingers. On October 7th when they were kidnapping her. I don't know all the details. We released 90 terrorists and they were basically returned to the West Bank, which includes East Jerusalem. So they're fortifying the West Bank for the terrorists now. Bad news, but okay. Why does Israel release so many hostages, like 30 for every Israeli hostage? I'm stuck. I don't know why. I know why Biden and Trump would push it on us to humiliate us and make it look like we didn't win the war, but why Israel goes along with these numbers is a mystery to me. It should be 1 for 1, tit for tat. I guess they're cramming it down Netanyahu's throat, so that's the only explanation I come up with. Let me keep thinking here. You see, this business with the terrorists is something I've told you people about this many times in the past, but I haven't mentioned it in a few months. There's a thing called the Palestinian Authority based in Ramallah in the West Bank. And it's run by Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority. And he gives, if a terrorist gets killed trying to kill an Israeli, he supports the family to the tune of about roughly $3,000 a month every month. If the terrorist is in jail for this, for every month he's in jail, he supports the family the same amount, about $3,000 a month. Plus, he gives them about $100 a month for their prison commissary fund, but that might have been eliminated. Now, this encourages terrorism, okay? Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, mostly Smotrich, have tried to stop this, and they haven't. Well, that's under Biden and so forth, and Netanyahu. And Netanyahu's never dropped the hammer down on this either. Even when Trump was president, the last time, this was still going on, as far as I can remember. So, maybe I'm wrong, but this is evil, okay? And it encourages terrorism, big time. In addition, when the terrorist's family is deemed to have known the person was a terrorist and likely to do an event, to do an incident, the Israeli government would demolish their house, and that usually would take a week or 2 or 3. What I was told is the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, would have a new house for these people within a week. Now, when they heard the house was going to be demolished, the terrorist people in the area would come in and help them move everything out of their house. They would take out plumbing pipes, sinks, everything. They would just leave the house a rat trap, nothing left in the house, and would get demolished. And this Mahmoud Abbas Palestinian Authority guy would have them in a new house in about a week. They don't talk about this, but we know it goes on. Now let's see if Netanyahu stops this with Trump. Nobody can say it doesn't encourage terrorism, because it obviously does. It's a no-brainer. No-brainer. And if Trump and Netanyahu don't stop it, then we know Netanyahu's no good, which I already know, and we know Trump's no good. Because this keeps the terrorism going, keeps the Jews from moving to Israel, etc. Do I think we're going to get tourism to open up now that we have a 6-week ceasefire? A little bit for sure, but not that much. Why? Because it's an unstable ceasefire. And it's not permanent. And I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of tourists. You're going to definitely get an increase. You might even get up to 25% of what you normally would get. But maybe it'd be more like 10%, 15%. We'll find out. But definitely going to get some increase. The other thing Trump is going to go after is Abrahamic Accords. He's going to chase that. Thinking. All right, I'll go back in my notes. Oh, let me check the live stream. I haven't done that. I do answer questions, and I do block people that make fun of me and put nasty remarks up. I just block them on the first offense. because they're not here for any good reason. Is the sun blinding you? There's a bright window right behind the iPad that's broadcasting, and I gotta look at it, so that's one reason I wear sunglasses, okay? I also don't like the blue light coming off the screen, too. And these are polarized glasses that block a lot of the blue light up to 400 nanometers. Get rid of the guy that's spamming the chat. Okay, got rid of the garbage in there with the snide remarks. They like to call me OG, that means original gangster. I get rid of them. Grandpa, I get rid of them, you know. Yeah, it's just nonsense, people. Children, I expect. Okay. So Trump's not going to go picking fights, but wars are going to find Trump and terrorism. What's going to happen today with terrorist events, bad protests and stuff? I don't know. We'll just have to wait some more hours and see what happens. Trump is likely going to try to make a lousy ceasefire deal with Ukraine like he did with Israel and Hamas. Anything just to stop the war. But again, he has a vested interest in keeping the Russian war going because Russia's deeply occupied. So he may not even bother. That's why his people are saying 6 months. The terrorists that have been released that are going into the West Bank, some will wind up in Gaza. They'll get in there somehow, probably. Maybe they can't get in, I don't know. They're going to get cut off in Zechariah 12 at the siege, so don't worry about that. They're going to get theirs, because they'll be in the siege. So I think next week more hostages get released, another handful, very few. I'm trying to see what I'm supposed to cover that I didn't cover yet. So don't expect any quick attacks instigated by Israel or the UK or America in the near future, but expect trouble to start up from the enemies. The big enemies are Russia, Iran, North Korea, China, and then lower tier is Cuba, Venezuela, Belarus, and some other countries. The other thing, Israel needs to wait for the weapons that Biden was blocking. Now, Trump will accelerate to transfer them because Netanyahu is marching to Trump's music. But I don't know, it's going to be what, 2-3 weeks anyway, or maybe a week, I don't know. But it's very important that Israel wants those weapons. And they want to have the purchases of the aircraft. More, I think, F-15s, F-35s, we want those delivered too. Israel does. Netanyahu is also right now on thin ice politically. Ben Gvir, one of the two right-wing members of his coalition government, has left. He had 6 seats. He used to have 7 or 8. He only had 6. He said he's not going to join the opposition to sink Netanyahu's ship. He says if Netanyahu goes back into the war after the 6-week ceasefire, which I think is really 43 days, then he will rejoin the government. Smotrich said, the other right-wing guy, that he's going to hang on to see if Netanyahu actually resumes the war in 6 weeks. If Israel resumes the war in 6 weeks, he will stay backing Netanyahu. If Netanyahu does not, he'll leave. See, Netanyahu kept saying he's not going to stop until we have a complete full victory. Now, this is not a full victory, and if he allows Israel to go into phase 2 and pull everybody out of Gaza and, open up the Philadelphia corridor for weapons smuggling from Egypt and let Hamas keep running the government, they're going to say Netanyahu's a liar, he doesn't deliver, and they're going to dump Netanyahu. They'll cause for a vote of no confidence. Now, Netanyahu can win that vote of no confidence. In other words, Smotrich and Ben Gvir together have something like 15 votes. So if they pull, Netanyahu is only running around with a margin of 2 or 3 or 4 or something like that. Very small margin to have a majority, which is 61. So he'll be down pretty far, and he may not be able to pick up new coalition partners with enough votes to offset it. So Netanyahu may get the boot. But who becomes the next prime minister, nobody knows. Netanyahu historically has been pretty good at keeping himself in office, real good. But these are end times, and you have no idea what's going to happen. You really don't. So Trump is putting his energy where it really belongs, the sleeper agents. He's not wasting much time. He's starting to play roundup with them tomorrow. So he's not, being a knucklehead and starting wars before he builds up America is stupid behavior. Trump might smack a lot of sanctions on Iran, okay? And Iran breaks the sanctions, like they're selling oil to China, who gobbles it up in massive quantities. most of their production goes to China. And they also gave India an exemption from the sanctions to buy from Iran. So a bunch of it goes to India. So Trump can put sanctions on Iran, put American warships around the Persian Gulf to stop the oil from leaving Iran and the Persian Gulf on Navy ships, civilian vessels. Turn them back and push Iran into a corner where Iran would have to come out fighting, and Iran's not going to do that. They can't win against America by themselves at all. Now, China would be peeved because they're going to suffer with their bad economy from having to go into the open market and buy oil at much higher prices than what Iran is selling it to them for. Maybe the same with India. So there's a lot of problems. Trump knows he can't control the wire transfers of the money very well. They will find ways to do that if he just stops the Iranian ships from leaving if he stops them from delivering oil to Russia India or China. What Iran seems to do is they send these tankers full of oil out into the ocean, and they meet the Chinese vessel or whoever the heck they're selling it to, and they transfer the load in the middle of the ocean, and then the Chinese ship brings it back to China, and they take the empty vessel back to Iran. So if you destroy their ports and piers, they're not going to be able to feed China the oil that they need, and in a wartime, they need even more. They go through oil products like crazy during war. Aircraft are in the air all the time. Navy vessels are moving all over the place all the time. Trucks and jeeps and tanks are moving all the time. They go through fuel like crazy. And if America does interdict the shipping, we don't know what Iran's going to do. They may start attacking American warships, and that could pop Trump's cork, and then the attack on Iran starts. And that, in my mind, is a very, very, very likely scenario because Trump is pro-sanctions. But just issuing sanctions doesn't stop Iran from selling the oil. You got to physically prevent the oil from leaving. And Trump knows that. And that could be a war. Don't know yet. We've got to watch. All right. If you have questions, you can put them up in the chat. Now let's go to the two witnesses on earth. Yesterday, we covered, I believe it was Genesis 19. Let me check the verse. Yeah, that's the Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, what I want to do is show you the two witnesses are also present in the previous chapter. I didn't do this yesterday for various reasons. So now we're in Genesis 18, and we're going to see the two witnesses again, but this time with what appears to be their father, Jehovah, with Abraham. I'll read it to you. Now, we'll get through it, don't worry. And Jehovah appeared unto him in the plains. And the word for appeared is 7200 Ra'ah. It's, I think it's reasonably well translated. I'm checking. Yeah, I think appear is pretty accurate. Okay. And Jehovah appeared unto him in the plain of Mamre, and he sat in the tent door in the heat of the day. Now, who's sitting in the tent door? Abraham. Why? Well, he's got the shade, and it's cooler than just being inside the tent where the air bakes from the heat. But he doesn't want to be outside because then he's going to get all the sun. So he compromises and sits right by the door to the tent. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men. The word for 3 is shalosh, it means 3. Esh is men, it means men. Stood by him, by Abraham, and when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent door and bowed himself towards the ground. So obviously, their physical appearance was different enough to make them want to bow down. I guess they were arise, shine. They were shining, emanating forth light. And said, my Lord, the word for that is Adonai, if now I have found favor in thy sight. Abraham knew enough to realize if they came to see him, they obviously weren't in a mood with swords to punish him or anything like that. He found favor in their sight. So he had some pretty darn good spiritual discernment. Favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray you, I think we would probably say, take a little water, I pray you. Let a little water, I pray, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree. He didn't tell them to go in the tent because the tent was probably too hot. The air is not circulating. They didn't have fans and exhaust fans and stuff. So under the tree would probably be 10, 15 degrees cooler, and the air would be moving. And I will fetch a morsel of bread, and comfort ye, or you, your hearts. It's the word for hearts, hearts. It is, lev, hearts. After that you shall pass on, for therefore are you come to your servant. And they said, so do as thou hast said. They did not want to deny him the chance to host them because his heart was right. He was honoring them as valued guests, highly valued guests, and they knew that, and they knew that if they denied it, it would probably hurt his feelings, and maybe he'd wonder why they denied it and stuff like that. So whatever, they accepted it, and Abraham hastened into the tent unto Sarah, that's his wife, Sarah, in English it's Sarah, and said, make ready quickly 3 measures of fine meat. 3 measures for the 3 of them. He wasn't worried about himself and Sarah. See, he was really honoring them. You got it? And needed, fine meal. I'm sorry, fine meal. Knead it and make cakes upon the earth. So they were going to knead the dough and then bake it. And Abraham ran unto the herd. He ran and fetched a calf, tender and good, and gave it unto a young man, a servant, I guess. And he hastened to dress it, to get it ready to cook. And he took butter and milk, these are fine things, and the calf, which he had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood by them under the tree, and they did eat. Well, dressed, I imagine it was cooked on a fire or something. And they ate the food, they ate the meat. And they said, and I'll tell you who the they is in a minute. And they said, well, we go right back to the first verse, and it says, and Jehovah appeared. It says the Lord, but it's in the Hebrew text, it's Jehovah. So it's Father God appeared with 2 others, okay? And we'll easily discern who the 2 others are as we get to the end of the chapter. You'll see it, obviously, if you listen to yesterday's teaching on Genesis 19 with the 2 witnesses in Sodom, okay? But it'll come together. And they said unto him, where is Sarah, or Sarah, thy wife? And Ish is the wife word, where's thy wife? And he said, behold, in the tent. And he said, I will certainly return unto thee according to the time. Now, the time of life. He didn't tell him exactly when he was coming, did he? No. He made a promise without a specific day or date. But he wanted to know where Sarah was before he told him this, and he didn't say, tell her to come out of the tent or anything, but we'll continue and you'll see. And lo, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. He didn't even say a baby or a child. He was highly specific as to the gender, a son. And Sarah heard it in the tent door, which was behind him. Now, Abraham and Sarah were old. And that word for old is seken. It means old, ancient, elder, old. Old's fine. We're old and well stricken in age. You see, that's old age. The word for stricken is, well, it doesn't say stricken, it says come in age. We're well come in age. So they were old. and it ceased to be with Sarah under the manner of woman. So she wasn't fertile anymore. She wasn't menstruating. Okay. And see, when you get old age and things start falling apart, and it's a disease. You could die from it. How many causes of death every year is written down? Old age, millions. So when you get healed of old age, and you become like a baby calf jumping out of the stall, as per Malachi 4. When you see Jehovah and you get healed. Church doesn't teach this. Verse 12. Therefore Sarah, this is Genesis 18:12. Therefore Sarah laughed within herself. So she didn't go, ah, it was inside herself she was laughing. Saying, after I am waxed old, and that word is Bala, and that means to wear out, become old. That's what happens when you get old, Bala. You wear out. Shall I have pleasure, my Lord, being old? And that word's a different word. That's 2204. That's seken, old. The word also is added in. It's not in the text. And Jehovah, now Jehovah's still here, said unto Abraham, wherefore did Sarah laugh? Or maybe for what reason or why did Sarah laugh? Saying in English, that's what we would probably say today, shall I of a surety bear a child, which, well, it's choppy English. It says, should I surely bear a child when I'm of old age? Jehovah says, it keeps talking, is anything too hard for Jehovah? At the time appointed, I will return unto you according to the time of life, and Sarah shall have a son. Now, the time of life, the word for life is chai, life, and the word for time is et, yeah. And Sarah shall have a son. Time of life is probably fertility time for the woman, okay? And again, he's prophesying what's going to happen. And of course, he's Jehovah, so to say he's prophesying is, it's more like better stated that he's stating a fact that's going to occur in the future, because he knows the end from the beginning. Then Sarah denied, saying, I laugh not, for she was afraid. And he said, nay, but thou didst laugh. And he corrected her, but he didn't really punish her, did he? Not so much or anything. We don't see it. People were different back then. You know, Abraham was giving his wife up to that king. And, you know, Lot was going to give his daughters to the bad ones in Sodom, you know, stuff like that, right? They weren't as spiritually tuned in like we are. And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. So he went to walk with them on the way to Sodom, which is in the next chapter. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Should I hide what I'm going to do from Abraham? He refers to Abraham as his friend. Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great nation, wait, can we get the words right? A great and mighty nation. Now the word for nation is goyim, 1471. So the word can mean a nation, okay? And the mighty word is atzum. It can be numerous or mighty, probably numerous. And all the goyim, the nations of the earth. So it's really mentioning the heathen nations here. That's what the word typically means, the nations without God, the heathen nations. And all the heathen nations of the land shall be blessed in him. Shall be blessed is what the text says. In him is added. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Jehovah to do justice and judgment, that Jehovah may bring upon Abraham that which he had spoken of him. And Jehovah said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great. And let's check that word for cry. Sak. Sloppy translation, I think. The outcry. And because their sin is very grievous. I just heard some explosions, but they were pretty mild. It could have been something, I don't know what it was. I don't think it was wartime stuff. I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me, and if not, I will know. And the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. So you see what happened here. Jehovah did not go to Sodom. The two men, the two witnesses, Apostle John and Elijah, I believe, went to Sodom. And then we see them in Sodom in the next chapter. And Abraham drew near and said, will thou also destroy the righteous with, heard it again, it might be artillery fire, I don't know what it is, with the wicked. It's not enough to be Iron Dome takedowns, I don't think. Maybe we drop some bombs in Syria. I don't know what it is. We'll find out. Peradventure there be 50 righteous. What I think we would say in English is, let's suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked, that be far from thee, far from you, meaning far from the Lord. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? So you can apply this to you getting out of the daughter of Babylon before it's completely destroyed, and other countries that are going to be destroyed. And if you're the righteous, if you're really in Yeshua. And Jehovah said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sakes. And Abraham answered and said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, unto Adonai, which am but dust and as ashes. He's saying, but I'm just dust and ashes. He knew how he was made. He knew stuff. Peradventure, there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, if I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. So Jehovah was very patient in letting this go on, the countdown. And he spoke unto him yet again and said, Peradventure there shall be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, let not Adonai be angry, and I will speak. Perhaps there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold, behold, I have taken upon me to speak unto Adonai. Perhaps or peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20 sake, for the sake of 20. And he said, let not the Adonai be angry, and I will speak yet. But this once, peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And Jehovah went his way as soon as he had left, communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned into his place. So I don't read, we go to the next chapter, and we don't read of Jehovah there. It says, and there came 2, they say angels, 2 messengers. Elijah's called a messenger in Malachi 3. It's 2 Moloch, 2 messengers. It's the 2 witnesses, I believe, to Sodom at evening. And Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, Behold, how my lords turn in. You see, we don't read anything about Jehovah there. So I think Jehovah went back up and was just relying on the 2 witnesses, Elijah and Apostle John, his sons, to enlighten him as to what was going on. Now, some of you may not understand what I just said about sons, and you're freaking out. This guy's crazy. Okay, I'll read one scripture quickly, and then we'll move on. Job 1:6. Now there was a day when the sons, plural, okay, of God, of Elohim, came to present themselves before Jehovah, and Satan came among them. So Satan knows who God's sons are. He recognizes their spirit. And rest assured, he's tried and tried and tried to get Apostle John and Elijah to do something, but he can't just drop on them. He has to entice them into sinning and destroying themselves, and he's not been very successful at that at all. Okay. I keep checking to see if I heard back from the songwriter, and I have not yet heard back, but I'm sure later today I'll hear back. So that's another instance of the 2 witnesses on earth, but it's really tied to the Sodom and Gomorrah incident. It's a continuation. Okay. Now we know Elijah was on earth, and they called him Elijah in the Book of Kings, you know. All right. We know Apostle John was on earth about 2,000 years ago, and they called him Apostle John. He never left. Yeshua said there'd be some standing here amongst you today that shall not taste of death till they see the kingdom of God. Well, it doesn't say some. When you check the words, it's someone. There's one, and that was Apostle John, who was told you must prophesy to many nations, tongues, and peoples. So the chances are he is the candlestick for representing the 10 tribes, the Goyim. And Elijah training the Levites would make him a Kohanim, because that's what the status he would need to train the Levites. And he would be of a Levite, basically a Levite that's a descendant of Aaron, a Cohen, which puts him in Judah, the other olive tree. So I hope you found that beneficial. Let me jump into the live stream and see if we got questions or problems. Hope I'm staying warm. I'm warm enough. It's cool in here. I got the window open, so I got the fresh air, but it's good enough. So let's take a look and see what I can pick up in my social media for what's going on now in Israel and other places. Let's see. Notice that Israel is no longer at war, and the hostages are starting to come back. Elisha's coming. He ain't coming on the clouds, though. Okay, the next hostage release is in 5 or 6 days. Saturday. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, 5 days. January 25th. There'll be another few release, and then we're going to release more of the bums from the jails. Let's see what this is. $630 trucks pulled into Gaza with humanitarian relief. These idiots gave a gift bag to the hostages when they released them. They're sick. 470 days they kept them. America's incoming ambassador to Israel says a Palestinian state is no longer a viable solution, if ever it was. Well, let's see if Trump adheres to that. His last term of office, he really did not at all. Opposite. Yesterday, over 500 trucks entered Gaza, and the local markets were empty of stuff, and the Gazans are complaining the stuff didn't reach them. So it appears that they stole the humanitarian aid again, Hamas. So the world is feeding the people that want to kill all the Jews. Jeremiah 30:11. Year of recompenses. Some Israeli Air Force general insisted on flying the helicopter to transport the terrorists to the hospital. They come out of Gaza. They're escorted by Hamas. People in the street watch them and probably yell at them and curse them. And then they get turned over to Israel, and then I believe, they get a fast physical right then and there to see if they need any immediate aid. They also have to be photo ID'd, facial recognition, maybe fingerprints, to make sure they are really Israelis, not terrorists. Can't drop your guard with these people, right? Then they're going to be searched to see if they have any explosives on them, like a bomb belt. You never know with these idiots. Then probably a medical corpsman, a paramedic, or a doctor would give them a pretty quick exam to see if they need to give them IV fluids, some antibiotic for infection, or they need some medication because they're distraught and stressed, stuff like that. Then they taken to a hospital by helicopter where they're given a thorough exam with this diagnostic equipment. They might do sonogram, CAT scan, x-rays, all the above, doctor, physical blood work, urine, and then they meet their family, and some of them may be kept in the hospital, but I believe these all are with their family. But they might ask them to stay a day or two in the hospital just to make sure everything's okay. They got to get the test back, test results. So. Sudan is under some potential threat of famine. There's war over there. Trump's U.S. ambassador picked Israel, Mike Huckabee, says he doesn't believe that a two-state solution is the future. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Bitcoin reached an all-time high of $109,000, $109,241. It's phony money, just like paper money. If the internet goes out, paper money will still work, but Bitcoin won't. Trump went and did a pre-inauguration celebration with the band The Village People. Now, this is a sexually, biblically not correct thing going on with these people. One dresses like a cop, one dresses a motorcycle cop or something, one dresses like an Indian chief, the other two like some kind of construction workers. And they're singing a song pertaining to a young guy, a young boy, that he should use the YMCA to stay in, not get involved with other, it's obviously a gay lifestyle song. Now, when I used to go on cruise ships, which has been quite a while ago, last time I went was 2007, they would sing songs on the cruise ships. Everybody would be joining in the YMCA. They didn't have a clue what it was about. And they'd go, YMCA, along with the song. They didn't know what they were doing, The other song we used to get on the cruise ships back then was "Who Let the Dogs Out?" Woof, woof, woof. That has, I don't believe, any connection to anything. It's just a silly song. If there is a connection, it missed me. 92% of the houses in the Gaza Strip, approximately 436,000 housing units, were destroyed or partially damaged during the war. 90% of the residents of Gaza Strip became displaced during the war. This comes from the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. It actually has initials, OCHA. The last time I was counting this, it was about 80%. So what Netanyahu was trying to do was to destroy all the housing to get rid of them. But no, all the nations that hate Israel and God are going to raise fortunes to rebuild Gaza and keep them there so Israel doesn't fulfill the prophecy of getting land back. Well, they're not going to get their way. These prisoners were in good physical and mental health, they're saying. I imagine they went home, took a shower, put on clothes other than their captivity clothes, and slept in a nice, clean, soft bed. Maybe had some wine, good food. I don't see any stirring up of any trouble popping up here. The West Bank is going to start to light up now because we're dumping these terrorists in there. And they're going to start getting rallied up. More terrorist attacks. The Israeli settlers were throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails at the Palestinians in the West Bank over the Gaza ceasefire. Go figure. Netanyahu's not doing much about it. somebody was asking me, with the three in Genesis, could it be one of them was Yeshua? It could be, but I don't think so. It could be, but I don't think so. I think it's the two witnesses. When Yeshua would come, he typically would be with the two witnesses, not by himself. But I don't think so. Yeah, someone said that. I said if Jehovah would come down to earth, the earth would burn up and explode. So how could it be Jehovah? Well, it says it's Jehovah, and I guess it didn't burn up, so he must have done something so it didn't. I don't have a better answer than that. Maybe they saw just his spiritual form. We don't know all the details. It wasn't probably his spiritual form because they took a meal with Abraham. So you got me on that one. I guess Jehovah did something so the earth didn't burn up. I guess he could do that again if he wanted to, because he does appear with Yeshua in the clouds, with Yeshua seated at his right hand, and the earth doesn't burn up. So I guess he can turn it down when he wants to. I don't have a better answer than that. I guess he could selectively deal with it when he wants to. Nothing's too hard for the Lord. But it was a good point you brought that up. Thank you. I guess that's my best explanation. Is that he could do what he wants when he wants. I don't have a better explanation, but I'm glad it came up. Last night, my wife went to bed and the wood-burning stove was on, and it was in the room next to my room with the door open, and the heat was coming in, and I woke up after I fell asleep for a few hours. I was too hot. I've got this really good blanket. It's a synthetic, kind of like the lining in here, but really thick. And I was like really hot. So I cracked my window, went back to sleep. I was still hot, and then I shut the door so the heat wouldn't come in. Then the rest of the night I had a really good sleep because I didn't have the heat. I don't sleep good when it's hot, when I'm hot, you know. I think we sleep better when we're cold. Hot wakes us up, I believe, and cold gets us to sleep. You ever take a hot shower, it'll wake you up. That's my thoughts. But I know if you go and you sleep outside camping, let's say in a tent, and you have a sleeping bag that's not efficient enough for the cold temperature, and you're cold during the night, you're going to have a lousy sleep too. You have to have a balance, you know. If you're really cold, you won't sleep either. If you're really hot, you'll have trouble sleeping. So I do best cracking my window so I get some fresh air in there too. But when we're used to running around with temperatures in the 90s, and it goes down to the 40s and 50s, it's very cold for us because we're used to hot temperatures. Let me see what else we got going on here in the news. If anything interesting's going down, be very quick. Some kid set fire to a congressman's office. TikTok is back online. Trump says he's going to give an executive order to allow them to continue for 90 days until they sell it or something. It's so painful every time we hear about fallen soldiers. I don't like hearing that. A European diplomat says Israel's decided to attack Iran's nuke sites. Yeah, but when? I don't know if we'll have any incidents coming up with the next hostage release on Saturday. So let's get a countdown to Trump being president, okay? Let's see how many hours we got to go. It's 4:32 in the morning. Well, you got about 8 hours left till Trump's president. 8 hours or so. Less? 7.5. That jerk Biden's got another 7.5 hours. I don't know where he is. I imagine they moved him out of the White House altogether. I wonder if Trump will have it disinfected. They probably did. They probably automatically did it. I imagine Biden. I don't even know if Biden's still sleeping there the last few days. Maybe he moved out, or maybe he just had a basic amount of supplies there, which for him could be 8 or 10 suitcases, and they're taking him out today. I have no idea what went on. So today is going to be an interesting day. We're not seeing any big terrorist attacks, but again, it's the middle of the night. Let's see what happens in about 4 hours if we start seeing protests and stuff. You could have the sleeper agents unleashed today. They would likely do it right after Trump was sworn in, I guess, or maybe just before. I don't know. Could happen. Don't know. All the signals I get is we're looking good for Elijah to start working because of this ceasefire. That's another reason I don't think Iran's going to attack Israel anytime soon either. So the world is about to change. The two witnesses are going to be bigger than Elvis, the Beatles, Rolling Stone, Trump added together times 3. They're going to be bigger, so to speak, okay? It's going to change the world. All right? It's going to really change. Will Elijah open the graves of the dry bones in Ezekiel 37 and bring them like Yeshua had the graves open when he was resurrected? it could be. I don't know. It's a likely possibility. That would set the world on its ear. They're going to look at them and go, we better do DNA tests. No, we can't. This person died 1,400 years ago. How the heck are we going to test the DNA? We didn't have DNA 1,400 years ago. What are they going to do? You know? I mean, what kind of clothes are these people going to come back with? Their original clothes or some other kind of clothes? They're not going to show up naked. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they'll be clothed. Are they going to come back with the everlasting life? Pretty sure. Pretty sure they will. Shining? Pretty sure. Are they going to have some fantastic stories for us about the yesteryears and what it was like for them in the dry place, the pit? Oh, I'm pretty sure they will. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Are they going to stop in the wilderness? No, they don't. They come right to Israel. What's that going to be like? I don't know. It's a one-off event. Well, we did see it when Yeshua had the graves open. Now, we're not told what happened to those people after their graves were opened. Are they still here in Israel? Did they get everlasting life at that time? I don't know. We're not told. Where would God take them? Well, he wouldn't take them to the pit. Did he bring them to Abraham's bosom? Possible. Did he bring them up to heaven? I don't think so, but it's possible. I don't know. If he brought them up to heaven and they just showed themselves to everybody and went up to heaven, they would get up into heaven before Yeshua did. Because Yeshua was running around on earth for 40 days. So I don't know. We're not told. See, there's a lot of stuff. We could pray for the answer on that one, but we're never going to convince people of it because we don't have the scripture for it. So. Are the dry bones going to come back as spirits? No, they have flesh, body, skin, cartilage, all of that. No. Are they going to come back serving Jehovah? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. See, what God will do is get the attention of the world with huge miracles, I believe, that Elijah and Apostle John do. They'll be on, if there still isn't internet and TV and stuff, they'll be on there. People are going to get very freaky about it. There's nothing that people can do about it. They're out of luck. These guys are not killable. Which also means they're not put in jailable either. You can't do anything to them. And I think this is the final, I don't know the right word, test for the Israelites to either repent and give up their wicked ways, or the 2/3 will be cut off. The same would apply to the nations, but they're not going to repent either. They're going to think it's necessary to kill the 2 witnesses and get rid of the temple and everything. Well, sorry guys, it ain't working that way. You're just taking yourselves out. So, I hope you got something out of this today, and keep praying for more answers to come. The answers you want, pray for them to come, and the Lord frequently gives them to me. After I deliver the message, people write me and say, I was praying for an answer for that, and then, the next day or later that day, I watched your video, and it was in there in the video, and I don't know what's going on. I just know, I'm supposed to cover this, and, so, pray for that. Prayer's powerful. Read the scriptures every day. Pray in the Spirit. Pray. Read the Bible. Pray. Read the Bible. Pray. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues to be happy, healthy, and whole. Keep the prayer coming for the chief. Hail to the chief, he likes roast beef. Chief song, he does like roast beef. He also likes pastrami, corned beef, cheese, chicken, turkey, fish, he's a broad spectrum eater. And let's see. That's what I got. I'm going to be keeping my eyes and ears open to see what happens today. If stuff starts going down, I will do emergency updates, live streams, and put it on Telegram. If you want my Telegram channel, just send me an email. My email's up at the top of the chat. It's at the bottom line in the description box. Just write Telegram in there, and I'll send you the link to get into the Telegram channel. If you want the Telegram Spiritual Warfare channel, you could ask for that too. Trying to think what else I got that's relevant. So things are pretty peaceful in Israel. And remember, the news is going to be swamped with the inauguration and pictures, and then the 200 and something executive orders. It's going to take a long time to go through, but I'm going to try to go through them. I don't know what they say, but it'll be interesting. Okay. My shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and thank you, and I'm out. You can hit the thumbs up if you like it, and that's it. Thank you.